Hi, I'm Rick Mullins. I teach organic chemistry at Xavier University in Cincinnati, Ohio, and recently finished working on my first edition textbook called Organic Chemistry, A Learner-Centered Approach. I was asked to talk about author voice and a couple of comments in general, and then I'll talk about how I used that concept of the author voice in writing my own text. I think the most important thing when you're setting out to write a textbook and thinking about that author voice is to recognize first and foremost that it's your author voice, right? It's who you are, and I think any attempt for an author to write in a voice that is not their own, to try to fabricate a voice that is not themselves, is going to be challenging. I think so. First and foremost is to recognize that your author voice is your voice, and while there are voices that might work better or worse than others, I think to start with the premise that it is your voice, and how do you modify your voice so that it's in the most effective way. Note I said modify. We're not completely changing. You're not writing in a different voice. You're writing in what is your voice. And so to think about how we approach that is, what are the things that you know when you sit down to write a textbook? You know your subject matter, obviously, right? You're planning on writing that book. You know how to deliver that information in some context through formerly research publications or journal articles or review chapters or in your own classroom. You know how to convey that information. More important than any of that is you know why you want to do this, right? You know your purpose. You know who your audience is. And all of these things that you know what you know about the person that's going to be reading it. You know what you want to convey and how you want to make them feel, what you want to make them learn when you're writing it. And I think that's where the author voice starts, is be what you want to be, write the book that you want to read, write the book that your audience more specifically wants to read, and write in that voice. Now, for my own experience, to give you an idea of how my author voice developed, and I would say it developed by just me writing the way I think students want to learn. So even in the title, Organic Chemistry, a Learner-Centered Approach, we're setting the learner at the center. Whereas a lot of textbooks might be considered reference guides to particular subject areas, I didn't want my book to be about organic chemistry. I wanted it to be about how to learn organic chemistry. And so for me, the challenge was, how can I write the content in a way that the content is there and it's accurate and it's precise and it's comprehensive, but it's done in a way that sets myself alongside the reader to guide them on this journey. And so for me, I wanted a book that could establish a rapport. I know it's difficult to take what happens in the classroom and directly translate it to a textbook because you don't have that interaction. As Robert mentioned in his video, you don't have the raised eyebrow, the emotion that comes with it. But how can we do that? Right? How can we establish a book as a teacher, as a coach, as a mentor? And I think the important part there is, again, by just knowing who the reader is, establishing yourself as their ally on this journey to obtain this new knowledge, at least was the approach that I set out to. Now, how do you actually do that? Well, I think you start from the beginning, right? That author voice that you plan on writing, you figure it out very early on. The last thing you want to do is write half of a book and then decide, okay, now I know what my author voice is. Have your voice from the beginning, right? Every chapter has to have that voice permeate throughout, because ultimately, in the same way that students will have a relationship, or readers will have a relationship with their teachers, the readers are going to have a relationship with the textbook and the author in that same way. And so if you want to have that voice of a motivator, of a coach, of a teacher, of an ally, of a mentor, establish that voice right up front. That's what we did that's what I did in my textbook, from the first chapter, establishing that this book is going to be different. It's going to be about how to learn organic chemistry. Here's why it's challenging. It tells my personal story of my own struggles through organic chemistry, and says, here's how we're going to help you avoid those personal struggles, do things the right way, learn the right way, and intermingled in all of that is the content that needs to be learned. So I think it's important. Again, I'll just go back to what I said at the beginning of the video. The author voice is your voice. Write in your voice. Do it to the best of your ability. Make it as readable as possible, but be you. right? I think that's the most important thing, is to recognize that it's your voice. Be you, be the person your reader needs you to be. Thank you.